Two prisoners murdered in a matter of weeks inside of HMP Wakefield. Now, HMP Wakefield is also known as Monster Mansion. And as you can imagine by the name of the title, Monster Mansion, that prison is full of absolute monsters. And there is a cleansing going on inside of there at the moment. And the prisoners, or the S-offender prisoners, the BEVANs, are absolutely shitting themselves, which gives us lot out here a little bit of jolly knowing that these horrible bunch, these monsters as they are rightly so labelled, are having a horrid time inside of prison, which we all take a little bit of glee from because we don't want these type of prisoners having a cushy time inside the high security prison. The whole lot of them in all the dispersal, the high security prisons should be getting the same treatment, and I do believe it'll be coming around very soon. So in a recent report, it said this was actually before the murders, an unannounced inspection where the inspectors turned up at the prison and scrutinised the prison all the way through, speaking to some of these horrid inmates as well. And it said there was too much violence at HMP Wakefield a month before Ian Watkins and Kyle Bevan's deaths. Now, Ian Watkins was the first BEVAN to have been murdered in there in these recent events. There has been others previously, but I'm talking about the most recent ones. And his was in October when the former Lost Prophets frontman Ian Watkins had his jugular cut, and within minutes he was on the floor pronounced dead. He was no more. Then less than a month later, which was ironically on November the 5th, Kyle Bevan was found dead in his cell. Now I have done a few videos covering these events, but a lot of people have been asking us to do videos about HMP Wakefield, what type of prison it is and what is going on inside of there. Now, 4 people in total have been charged with the Ian Watkins murder, or shall we call it cleansing. So Rashad Goodell, 25, and Samuel Dodsworth, 43, were charged with the murder, and 2 more were arrested and charged with conspiracy to murder. And the most recent one, on Kyle Bevan, the 3 inmates, which I spoke about in the previous video, was Mark Fellows, who is 45-year-old. This is his 3rd murder, if he's convicted on it, because he's in jail serving life without parole for 2 gangland hits on Paul Massey and John Kinsella. So Mark Fellows is a notorious figure, and he is actually wanted inside of prison himself because of the murders that he committed, and he has been slashed up on a couple of occasions. The most recent one was in HMP Whitemore, and that was the reason he was transferred up to HMP Wakefield. Lee Newell, who is 56, is already serving life without parole as well. Got nothing to lose, so might as well take some more down with him. And this is his 2nd one inside of prison. Suban Anwar, I think his name is. He killed him inside of HMP Long Lartin. I've done a video on that previously as well. So those 2 have got nothing to lose. They'll just be kept on the units and they'll not be having much contact with the other prisoners. But like I've mentioned, they'll probably not be bothered. They'll probably feel a bit safer themselves being on them type of units. And 63-year-old David Taylor, who was due to go up on trial, I believe, before long, for the attempted murder of a copper on a visit when he was doing a legal visit, went up to question him about something. He's went up on the visit. He must have thought, I've got a bit grievances with this copper. So he smuggled himself a homemade blade onto the legal visit, pulled it out, and plunged the copper up on the visit. He was charged with attempted murder. So he's already inside prison for a murder as well. I'm not sure on his tariff because I couldn't actually find it. But being 63-year-old, having them charges and them sentences, He'll probably not be getting out of prison either, so he'll not be yours. So you've got 3 dangerous individuals who aren't getting out of prison. They've got nothing to lose apart from bodies to gain and a bit more notoriety. And like I've said, these 3 inmates, they've probably not liked being inside of Wakefield, surrounded by a bunch of wrong-uns, a bunch of ex-offender bacons, nonsense, whatever you want to call them. They're not in for that type of crime against little ones, so they're probably thinking, I need to be off this wing, I need to be out of this prison. And they probably feel more comfortable, like I've just stated, on a unit with about up to 10 prisoners, sometimes only maybe 5 or 6, on a unit, like I've said, where they'll probably feel a bit more safe because they are vulnerable themselves to attack, and they have been attacked on previous occasions. I'm not sure about David Taylor, but Lee Newell nearly lost his life to Gary Vinter. Mark Fellows has got a target on his back for what he's in prison for, and he's been slashed up, which was a serious one inside of Whitemore when he got airlifted to hospital. So they'll probably want to be on a unit with like-minded individuals who are never getting out, and everything I've just said. Dangerous individuals get housed together. So, also, whilst I'm speaking on that murder before I move on to it, how will this unfold? Well, they probably will all take it to trial because it'll give them a little something to do. It's going to get them out of the pads. It's going to give them something to think about because, let's face it, they're surrounded by pure boredom. They are never getting out of prison. Mark Fellows, who's 45, he's a fit lad. He keeps himself fit. He's done marathons and whatever. He could have another 40 years ahead of him inside a prison. So what more can you do to fill in your time? Commit a murder, take it to trial, go on some interviews and pass a bit of time. There's nothing else to do. Get a little bit of notoriety. So I'll keep you updated on how it unfolds, but one of them could just take it on the chin and say, right, 3 of us were in the pad. There was only me inflicted the blows. They were just there. They didn't know I was going to do it, whatever. But again, none of them are going to feel the brunt of it because any extra time isn't going to make any difference to them whatsoever. So going back to the report where it says, just a few days before the death of Watkins, HM Inspectorate of Prisons released a report following an unannounced inspection of HMP Wakefield conducted between June the 30th and July the 10th this year. This report said violence was on the rise at the prison. The key points of the report in regards of safety were there were too much violence at the prison. Prisoners did not feel safe and were afraid to leave their cells. Prisoners did not always get enough help to settle in. Well, why would you want to give them any more help than needed? Those monsters are going in there. A lot of them are category A, and a lot of them are serving massive sentences themselves. A lot of them have ended the lives of little ones and they don't deserve shit. But it's saying didn't get enough help to settle in. What do you want? Do you want a bedtime story? Do you want us to hold your hand while you go to sleep, you fucking bacon? So since the last inspection in 2022, there had been a 62% rise in incidents at HMP Wakefield and a 72% increase in serious assaults. Get in. All the bacons are getting justice. The report said many prisoners told us they felt unsafe, particularly older men convicted of S offences who increasingly shared the prison with a growing cohort of younger prisoners who were going to stamp down the authority and dish out some prison justice. Staff morale had suffered, and while training was planned to help officers manage this more complex population, there was currently no coherent strategy to reduce violence or bullying. The regime for prisoners who self-isolated out of fear was punitive and lacked the support needed to reintegrate them safely. Around half of the population were locked up the entire day because they're scared to come out because of what they've done. So they should. They should be in fear. They should feel the fear that they inflicted on the little ones. Prison infrastructure had declined with security, living conditions and workshops all affected. It's happening throughout the whole of the system, not just Wakefield. It's on its arse, just like the UK is on its arse. The prisons are as well. In particular, vital security systems had broken down, with wings said to be shabby, showers in very poor condition, water boilers and washing machines subject to regular breakdowns. As it happens, there's 100 people on the wing, there's 2 washers, it's going to break down. And electrical issues sometimes affecting emergency cell call bells. Well, that's just a cover-up for the screws not having to answer the bells when these bacons are crying on a night time because they're scared, because they feel like they're going to get battered and they're feeling vulnerable and they want someone to hold them hands while they're crying. There were some bright spots in the inspection. Healthcare provision had improved significantly and reasonable efforts were made to support family contact. Public protection work was said to be robust and the governor had established a clear vision for the future. However, despite staffing seeming adequate, employers were often redeployed to support other prisons, leaving HMP Wakefield unable to run its regime consistently. And like I've just said, this is happening throughout the prison system. I've got lads who I'm still in touch with inside the prisons, and they're telling us it's worse than COVID regime. They're hardly getting out, and the staff are feeling the brunt of it because when they're banging on the doors, not getting out, you can imagine they're like wild animals behind the door. As soon as the doors open, they're busting out, growing crazy and battering the screws all over. So Wakefield Prison, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the history of the prison because like I said on the recent videos about Wakefield, people have been asking us about the prison and can I do an update and talk about the prison, what type of prison it is, what type of prisoners are in there. And also, Josh from Lockdown 23 and 1 done a video on these child killers getting murdered. And he gives a shout out. He spoke about my channel because I've done interviews with him on his channel previously. And I did have a quick look at the comments and someone said, could you ask him to give us an update because a lot of them viewers, the American subscribers that have watched Josh's channel, also watch my channel after the interview that I'd done with him on his channel. So just for the American subscribers, this is for you lot wanting to know about the prison. So it's situated in West Yorkshire, England, and the capacity is 750. So the population is 630, including 148 Category A prisoners as of July 2025. And Josh did say on his channel, he was referring to it as Murder Mansion, but someone said, can you correct him? It's Monster Mansion. And like I've said at the beginning, it's Monster Mansion because if there's 750 inmates, 90% of them used to be bacons. It is now 60% and 40% non-bacons, I'll call them. And 148 Category A prisoners. Category A prisoner is, as you can imagine, worst of the worst, I'll put it. People that have committed crimes that are so bad and they pose a significant risk of escape and a significant risk of harm to other inmates. And the majority of them are probably doing life sentences. Category is normally a life sentence with a sentence of life with a minimum of 30, 40 years. These inmates aren't getting out. So these bacons that are in there, you can imagine why they're shitting themselves because hundreds of inmates are out for blood. And there is going to be more. I'm going to do an updated video on who is next. So the prison actually opened in 1594. So it used to be Her Majesty's. Obviously, when the Queen died, it's His Majesty's prison. Category A, men's prison. The prison has been nicknamed Monster Mansion along with HMP Frankland due to the large number of high-profile, high-risk bacons and murderers held there. But in the local press up in Frankland, in the northeast, that has also become known as Monster Mansion as well because it's housed some of the most high-profile bacons in there. So Wakefield Prison was originally built as a house of correction in 1594. Most of the current prison buildings date from the Victorian era. Now, a lot of those prisons that are in the cities, like Durham Prison, all your local prisons where the remand prisons, all them old Victorian prisons, they are quite daunting, especially if you haven't been to prison before. You pull up on the van, jump off the van, you look up, you see the old Victorian prison, the bars and all that, and it's like, wow, it is a bit of a step back, but these Bacons, it's exactly what they deserve. The current prison was designated a dispersal prison in 1967, holding 144 inmates, and is the oldest of the dispersal prisons still operating across England and Wales. Now, a dispersal prison, there's 5 of them, all high security prisons holding the worst of the worst. You have obviously Wakefield, Whitemore, Full Sutton, Long Lawton, and Frankland. They're called dispersal prisons because they just disperse the inmates throughout them 5 prisons who were serving massive sentences and they're never getting out, so they never keep them in the same prison. They just put them around all these different prisons, and at any given time, they will be told, they'll get ghosted, they'll say, right, pack your stuff, you're off. You don't get told in advance for obvious reasons. Category A inmates, high risk of escape, so they do get, it's called ghosted inside a prison, where they'll come, bang on the door, 6 in the morning, get your kit, tuck down reception, devastated, because you've been there for years, you don't want to move, but you've got no option. Sometimes they refuse, the screws go in, wrap them up, tie them up, drag them down, smash them off all the walls on the way, and chuck them in the block, then rag them onto the van, and they get forced onto the van. A lot of prisons, if they do that, they can't outweigh a lot of the locals in the category C's. They'll probably just ram them down the block, smash them off a few buildings on the way down, and then just chuck them in the block. But obviously these prisoners, they get dragged onto the van. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about this bit, because I've skipped a few bits because there's absolutely loads to go on there, but a lot of it is just too much to go through. So in 2001, it was announced that a new ultra-secure unit was to be built at Wakefield Prison. The unit was to house the most dangerous inmates within the British prison system, and was the first such unit of its kind to be built in the United Kingdom. In March 2004, an inspection report from Her Majesty's Chief Inspector of Prisons criticised staff at Wakefield Prison for being disrespectful to inmates. The report claimed that the prison was over-controlled and a third of the prison's inmates claimed to have been victimised. Boo-hoo. Again, these Bacons, these VPs are absolute cowards, and if the screw raises the voice to them, they'll put applications in saying they're being bullied, they're being harassed. What do they expect? Do they expect to get treated with the utmost respect when they've took the lives of little ones? They're nothing but garbage, and they don't deserve any respect, even from the screws. According to the report, there had been a 62% rise in violent incidents and a 72% increase in serious assaults from a growing cohort of younger prisoners. That's what I mentioned before. So as of April 2025, Wakefield Prison has a capacity to hold 750 prisoners. Accommodation at the prison comprises single occupancy cells with integral sanitation. All residential units have kitchens available for offenders to prepare their own meals. An incentive and earned privilege system allows standard and enhanced offenders the opportunity of in-cell TV. Like other HM prisons, all offenders are subject to mandatory drug testing, and there are voluntary testing arrangements, which are compulsory for all offenders employed. HMP Wakefield offers a range of activities for inmates, including charity work, an accredited course in industrial cleaning, and a braille shop where offenders convert books to braille. So most of the high security prisons have those type of workshops in them, and the prisoners can earn up to £15 to £25 a week to spend on whatever they like. And like I mentioned there about having kitchens, all the high security prisons have kitchens on the wing. It has a different type of canteen, commissary, where you can buy meat, fruit and veg, all the type of condiments you need to cook, dinners, fry-ups, whatever. Those are the type of things you can't eat and cook in the high security prisons, which a lot of people don't understand about that, but that is how people get hot oiled. It's called ghee up, where they melt the butter down into ghee and they tip it over people to either get revenge or to maim somebody, someone who has a debt, or a bacon who deserves it. And I've actually witnessed this myself when I was in HMP Franklin. Darren Barrett had a pan of hot oil tipped over his head on the second day I was in there. I was in the kitchen with my pal. Someone came in grabbed the pan of hot oil that was bubbling away and just tipped it over the back of his head. And that leaves absolutely nasty and horrific scarring. But he was a terrorist who was serving a minimum of 40 years, head of Al-Qaeda in the UK, and he was targeted for that reason. So that is how people get hot oiled inside a prison, because they have pans. They did do away with the butter. You couldn't buy butter on your canteen no more, and you couldn't buy oil, because you used to be able to buy a litre of oil. So you can imagine 3 litres of oil, 3 or 4 litres all bubbling away over someone's head, catastrophic injuries. So they stopped selling it on there. And you used to get little portions of butter with your dinner time meal. Again, all you got to do is save up 100 butters, tip them in the pan, or the lads from the workshops that worked in the kitchens rather would bring you litres of oil back stuffed down the pan. So there was ways and means of doing it. But Wakefield Prison, which, like I've just mentioned, old Victorian prison, 60% bacons, and a lot of them, like it says there, an increase of violence of 72% of serious assaults. So you can imagine what is going to be happening now inside that prison because of this inspection. They're probably going to try and get one wing and put all the the prisoners who were in for non-S offences and put them on a separate block. But it is saying on the prison system, because like I said, my friend that contacts us from inside prison, they get all the prison news on the laptops, because the inmates are allowed laptops now to do the applications online for canteens, applications for visits. Everything is done on the system now. So it saves all the paperwork. It was all used to be done by paper apps. Now they have laptops where they can do it themselves, and they get the prison news on their laptops. And it came up about a lot of the Category C prisons. They're trying to integrate them, where the bacons and the non-bacons are all mixed in. And they're saying, why should it be any different in prison? When you're out of prison, you're mixed in with everybody else. So this is the way they're trying to go down, or the route they're trying to go down. But it's causing friction on both sides. The bacons are kicking up a fuss, saying that they're feeling vulnerable. Then the other prisoners are saying we shouldn't have to share a wing with them, because when they find out about it, then they have to act on it, and they end up doing the bacons in. They end up getting moved to another prison, and it fucks up the whole dynamic. So both sides of the fence are disputing it. So we'll see what happens, and I'll keep you updated. But a prison inspection in 2018 found that Wakefield Prison was on the whole calm, secure, decent, and well managed. Still, prisoners needing psychiatric care face unacceptable delays before they are transferred to secure psychiatric hospitals, and prisoners' mental conditions worsened while they were waiting for transfer. Because of the totally unacceptable delays in doing so, many prisoners across the prison estate are held in conditions that are in no way therapeutic, and indeed many cases clearly exasperate their condition. While staff attempted to the situation at Wakefield was yet another example of prisoners with severe illness not receiving the care they needed. Inspectors noted a prisoner who was exceptionally challenging to manage had complex needs that could not be met in the prison. While staff attempted to manage him positively and constructively, his condition was deteriorating during a lengthy wait to be admitted to a secure hospital, according to the inspection report. But again, this is something that I'm familiar with within the system, and it does, I mean, we don't care about what happens to these lot, but on a whole, it does need addressed because a lot of people are suffering really badly inside a prison, and a lot of them are decent people, decent lads. And people who are watching this who've never been will say, well, how can they be decent because they're in prison? The likes of myself who's in prison is a decent lad. You come across a whole range of lads and lasses inside a prison that have committed offences which sometimes have been committed out of character or been committed for a reason which seems justifiable. Someone who's attacked a family member, you've acted out in revenge. Sometimes it's needed. It's just. It's justice in your own mind, because if someone attacks a family member, then you're going to attack them. Then in my mind, it's justified. Same if someone attacks your kids. Some bacon attacks your kids. I've been inside with people whose children have been attacked outside, and they've went and they've reacted on it and done the person in that hit their kids, and they've ended up inside. So these are the type of people that you come across that, from my perspective, are decent people. And these are the ones that sometimes have never been inside before. They're suffering with the mental health and they're not getting the help they needed. And coming back to the IPP prisoners, who I've done a lot of videos on as well, a lot of these lads don't deserve to be in prison and they aren't getting the help that they need. And if anyone's new to the channel and saying what's an IPP prisoner, go back and have a look on my playlist, go onto my channel, go to the playlist section and go to IPP prisoners playlist section, and it tells you everything about them in there. I'm ex-IP myself, IPP myself. Mine was terminated in September of last year. And a lot of these IPP prisoners that just had a few months tariff, 12-month tariff, have been in for nearly 20 years and is absolutely soul-destroying. And these are the ones that need help. But I am getting off the subject a little bit, but I hope I've covered a lot of things here about Wakefield Prison, also known as Monster Mansion, which houses the most despicable cretins, pieces of garbage in the UK. But there is more videos I'm going to be doing around about these subjects, more so on Mark Fellows and Lee Newell. I'm going to be doing updated videos talking about the most recent crime, this murder that happened in Wakefield just last week. And I'm also going to be talking about their backgrounds, how they ended up in prison, their crimes that they'd done before prison, the crimes they've done in prison, and what has happened to them in prison, the crimes against them, when they have been beat up and slashed and done in themselves. But I'm going to leave that one there for now, people. And as usual, if you are enjoying the content, remember to comment, like, and subscribe. A staggering 60% of my viewers are still not subscribed to the channel. So go around, double check, hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost a penny, but it helps boost the channel to make it look a bit better, and it does help with the algorithm. So if you don't mind, go do a little second research to see if you are. Also, hit that notification bell so you don't miss another video. Enjoy the rest of your day, people. And as usual, on that finishing note, stay safe